Dear Sony, thank you so much for releasing the newer version of my camera, which is the Sony A1 Mark II. But Sony, in today's video, I'm going to tell you about all the reasons why I will not be buying your flagship camera. So let's get this video started. What's going on, guys? This is Eddie, aka Mr. Eddie Nunez. Thank you so much for hitting that play button and watching another one of my videos. On this channel, I typically create a lot of drone content. I've always said that I want to dabble into the camera space. Now, I have a lot of high-end gear when it comes to cameras, which I really don't talk much about on this channel. So for example, here with me is the Sony A1. This is the Mark I version, which I did go ahead and spend $6,500 on plus tax at the time that this camera was released. On the actual tripod here, the camera that I'm shooting with on today to make this video is the FX3, which has been a phenomenal camera. And then here to my right, I do have the Canon 1DX Mark III, which was at one particular time the flagship Canon camera, and this was also $6,500. Now, my list of cameras does not end here. I have two A6500s, which are like little baby cameras. Those are the cameras that I started with. I keep one here to live stream, one as like an overhead camera, and just a camera like to go out with the family, etc. I also do have the Canon 1DX Mark II. Always wanted the Canon camera, this 1DX camera, because of the Peter McKinnon nostalgia. And then I do have a Canon 5D Mark IV, which is kind of like one of my first full frame cameras. And then I do have, now thinking about Sony, I also have the Sony A7R IV. So my list of cameras is very extensive, and I don't share this on this video to kind of brag about all the cameras that I have, because I haven't even touched the list of lenses that I have to complement these cameras. But today's video is really all about the Sony A1 Mark II and why I will not be spending $6,500 on it. Now, I did get a chance to try out the A1 Alpha 1 Mark II at the B&H creator event that was hosted in collaboration with B&H and Sony in the Meatpacking District here in New York City. It's actually a very good day because as part of the interest, and I got exclusively invited by B&H Photos as part of their creators program. So thank you, Matt Hollander, for always looking out. But it was actually a fantastic day, not only because I got to try out the new Alpha 1 Mark II with the 28-70 f2 lens, but also because as part of your entry and participating in that event, you were able to draw, throw your name for a raffle. And I'm a very unlucky person that usually doesn't win anything. But in that evening, Sony and B&H were giving out $5,000 for a first prize winner, $1,000 for the second prize winner, and $500 for the third prize winner. And I actually won second prize, $1,000 gift card to B&H, which is spectacular. Mind-blowing because I never win anything. That being said, the reason why I mentioned that I won $1,000 is because I thought using this money, I am now closer into upgrading to the Alpha 1 Mark II. But after watching several different reviews, I watched Gerald Dundun, I watched my boy Terry Warfield. He actually made many videos on that camera, a live stream, a dedicated video. He's been on Instagram with a lot of gear acquisition syndrome gas. He's definitely going to be buying the camera. After I went through all the specs and I also went through Petapixel and their review on it, I realized that I'm not going to upgrade for two reasons. Number one, Sony really did drop the ball on the Alpha 1 Mark I. So after spending $6,500, they really didn't do a lot in terms of upgrading this camera capability. So things like those AI autofocus functions that was never added to the A1 focus stacking, which is something new on the A7R IV. So the A7R IV just got that via firmware update. That wasn't added here. Shutter angle, the FX3 got that. I know that's a sort of like a cinema line thing, but I think, you know, only the top of the line camera, flagship camera, could have potentially been added here and the A1. There's just a whole list of things that Sony could have done on the Alpha 1 upon its release. And Sony did absolutely nothing to update this camera. They didn't do a single thing. I think we're lucky to see 2 firmware updates. One was a general bug fix update. The other one, I noticed this switch, the updated the menu system and made it a little bit more modern, and I think enhanced some of the capabilities, but it didn't really add any of those features that were found on the A9, the A7R V, which I'm sure this, although maybe like 2 to 3 year old camera, probably does have somewhat of a dated processor. I'm sure the processor could potentially handle that capability. Even if you don't give us these features in 8K, you could have definitely given us these features in 4K, Sony. So with that in mind, I'm not gonna be upgrading to the Sony Alpha 1 Mark II just because I felt abandoned as a Mark I user. Now, yes, I'm over here nagging on a video, I'm kind of ranting, and I'm upset that, you know, the A1 Mark II came out and they left us behind, the A1 user. Well, yeah, I understand that's technology. For instance, here I purchased the 1DX Mark III, which is another $6,500 camera. I thought I was gonna get a lot of use in this camera, and to be quite honest, you know, this camera does pack a lot of features. It has internal RAW, ProRes built in, the SD card slots, the battery life, you know, the ability to have the I don't know what you call this, but the battery grip all built in. Like, this feels like a flagship camera, but it makes my workflow, you know, very difficult using this camera for many reasons, which I won't get to. But the reason why, you know, this was another missed flagship camera was because after I purchased this, they announced the R3, right, which is the mirrorless version of this camera. Then now they have the R1, which they're calling the flagship camera. But when you look at all these flagship cameras, they don't really have the features that make it a flagship camera. So for example, like Canon just released the Canon R5 Mark II. That to me is like a flagship camera. It has that internal ProRes. It shoots 8K 60. It does so much things that neither of these flagship cameras. In fact, I don't even think that the R1 from Canon's lineup can shoot 8K 60. But here we have the R5 Mark II. So with that being said, you know, thinking about my purchases, I have way too much gear. I have way too many cameras. Do I really need the A1 Mark II? Yes, the flip out screen is really nice on the new version because it is the same one as the A9 and the R5, where it comes out, you can flip it this way, you can turn it again. So it's that new modular versatile screen. Yes, the grip of the camera is larger, so it feels better in the hands. Here I have a cage to kind of compensate from the smaller camera body shape. But for what I'm shooting, what I'm doing here on YouTube as a hobbyist, thank you, Billy Kyle, a hobbyist. He defines me as a hobbyist. I don't really think that there's a reason for me to spend another $6,500 on the camera. Now, is the camera fantastic? Absolutely. Do I really want it? Absolutely. Do I need it? I don't think so. Having all this gear, I don't think I really need another A1 Mark II. And you know, when I think about my experience using it, yes, although the image quality was amazing, it is the same sensor. So whatever I can accomplish on the A1 Mark II, I'm pretty sure I can accomplish on the A1 Mark I. So that's a little bit of a rant video. I'm hoping that, you know, on this channel, I could start to introduce more of my camera gear and the technicals. If I introduce it, I'll be introducing outdated older gear because technology keeps growing and expanding. And one thing I learned about 2 years ago is that you got to get rid of gas. So my brother, Terry Warfield, if you're watching this video, you got to get rid of gas, bro. You can't continue chasing gear because if so, you'll end up broke. And it's truly, gear makes the ability for you to shoot easier, but it doesn't make you any better in terms of your creative workflow. So it doesn't matter whether you have the A1 Mark II or the A1 standalone or the A7 IV or the A7S III. They're all great cameras. It's really up to your creative workflow. Anyway, I've talked way too much. This is just a little spontaneous video here. Really me complaining about this release and crying about it. Eventually, I probably will get it, but not in the foreseeable future, maybe down the line. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to drop them down below, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.